Hi everyone, welcome to Here We Are, Brattleboro's community talk show. I'm Wendy O'Connell, and our guest today is Vidhi Salla. Vidhi is bringing Bollywood to Brattleboro. She's the host of Vidhi's Bollywood Jukebox on our local radio station WVEW, which streams internationally. As an independent cultural arts curator, Vidhi collaborates with many different local venues to present Bollywood films, which always include a sweet dose of Indian history, culture, handcrafts, and cuisine with each showing. Born and raised in Mumbai, India, Vidhi came to Brattleboro 5 years ago. She's with us today, and we're really glad to have her. Hi, Vidhi.
Hi, Wendy.
It's wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
You've had a busy summer and a busy fall.
Yes.
And doing many different things.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Mostly around cinema.
Yes.
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 Which has been your focus of bringing Bollywood to Brattleboro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's been an exciting journey since last summer when I started doing in-person events in Brattleboro.
Yeah.
And it started technically much before that in 2020 when I collaborated with Epsilon Spires and Jamie Moore, the amazing artist behind all of the work at Epsilon Spires, was all about bringing Indian films to local audiences here in Brattleboro. And we started an online film club where we had people watch the films on the website and invited them to participate in a discussion about the film, the characters, their background. So that was a really exciting start that culminated into these in-person events.
Yeah. You just rolled it right into doing it in person after that. And when you were doing it by Zoom, so it was sort of worldwide, is that right?
Yeah, it was worldwide, and we had participants joining the Zoom session from UK and different parts of India because people were all holed up. So Delhi, Lucknow, Mumbai city, all these people, all these participants and their different perspectives was so interesting to bring together.
From that, you got a grant through the Arts Council of Windham County to continue with the film series. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Basically, what the grant helped do was that we, with Epsilon Spires, we were able to host one screening for free for all the audiences, in which we were able to invite Sheetal's vegetarian cuisine. They have a farmer's market stall every Saturday at the Brattleboro Farmers Market, and they make amazing. Sheetal is the woman behind the food, and she makes amazing food. So we were able to bring them in and just open up the space of backlot cinema for people to just come and enjoy this film together.
Yes. So the grant was very helpful in that way.
It was really helpful.
You're also establishing something, and I know Epsilon Spires is focusing on this a lot, is establishing a new way of viewing art, film and cinema and music and different things like that. So hopefully this will continue on.
Yes.
Right?
Of course, after some point people got tired of Zoom, which is why. And in-person events people were deprived of them for such a long time.
Right.
So this whole feeling of coming together to watch a film, that room full of laughter on a funny scene is something that I missed, and I enjoyed it so much when it happened the first time at the Stone Church. That was the first in-person event.
So it's Stone Church, which is a beautiful venue here in town, and Robin Johnson, I think you collaborated with him pretty closely on that as well. And then you kind of rolled that into the back lot at Epsilon Spires for outside viewing.
Yes.
Yeah. That was another great idea, is to have sort of drive-in movies, walk-in movies.
Yeah, walk-in movies. That was all Jamie. She's such a great curator.
So after this wonderful summer of showing these films, you got a nice little gig at the Latches showing as well with John Potter, collaborating with him.
That's been a culmination of all these movie events reaching an actual movie theater,
Yes.
the Latches, and the only one in Brattleboro. The historic Latches Theatre is such a beautiful space, and John Potter has been an excellent collaborator. The first film that we showed was in the old theatre, and that film is a very important historic film for Indian cinema. So it was really special to see it in alongside all the Greek sculptures inside the Latches. And that's the first time I learned from John that a Greek family had bought the theater way back in the 1900s, and that was around the time when cinema was growing, so it was a clever decision on the part of the family.
Yes.
And it has its own history, and to show a film that was such an important part of Indian history was a very special experience for me. And of course, the other films that I curated as part of the series were enjoyable because they were all from different time periods. One was an urban film, there was a comedy film, so
Yes.
that was a nice way to engage with local audiences. Bollywood, the name, it conjures up certain images for people, that there is song and dance, that it's like a musical, but is there story? Do the actors actually sing, or is it playback singers that record at a studio and actors lip sync on stage? So these are all the elements that I introduce people to, and then examining why the character or where the character is coming from. For example, a film that I showed at the Latches, a 2012 film called English Winglish, was about this homemaker who doesn't speak fluent English, but she's a great entrepreneur, and she just constantly feels let down and underconfident because she can't speak English. And the background of that is that urban India is obsessed with fluency in spoken English. And that is a result of our previous colonization and the way that the British made it so important for the people of India to learn how to speak English, or to make it sound like this elite language that everyone should know, and everyone should know it more than their own mother tongue, is something that became ingrained during our colonization, and it continues in urban India. So that is something that I was making it a part of my introduction to inform the audiences that why is it such a big deal?
Yes.
Why such an emotional reaction on the part of the character to this? Because of this conditioning.
It's so cool. I mean, it's just really great because, you know, I think that looking back at our own cinematic history, you know, movies spring out of all kinds of cultural things.
Right.
You know, but for us, you're right. We have certain preconceived notions of what Bollywood is and what it's about. So I'm sure that having you there to give some real information is wonderful.
Yeah, and I am personally enjoying the process because I've spent such a long time researching and writing about Indian cinema, and to be able to share that knowledge, but also look at it from the prism of culture and present it to an audience that has never encountered an Indian film before, is the focus of my endeavor overall.
Yes.
I still have audiences coming up to me and sharing their experiences.
Yes.
Or, you know, like this one gentleman, after the same film, he shared how he made friends with someone from South Korea because of their language barrier. So that is something that I want to bring out through these events. Like I said, watching something together is such a different experience because he wouldn't have come up and shared that with me if he was watching it at home.
That's right.
On a streaming platform.
That's right. Because you are bringing many things to these presentations. You're bringing samples of food, for one thing, and handcrafts, and it feels like you're really trying to create a different kind of experience for film goers.
Yes, yes. It's all part of the curation, and I want people to not just come and watch a movie, but also engage with the Indian culture in a more wholesome way, you know, touch and feel handicrafts that are made in India and not picked up from some wholesale mart, from some, you know, international shopping destination. It's from this weaving colony that was in fact shut down during the British colonization because they wanted to monopolize it. So then it got revived, and somehow I am connected with those weavers, and I bring those shawls. The silver jewelry is from my family store in Mumbai. So it's all part of the authentic cultural experience that I want people to have. It's not hogwash. It's not you know, that okay, I'm presenting a piece of India to you. This is the way it is. This is what you know, you get on in the bazaars of Mumbai, that I'm having like a small bazaar of my own at the movie event.
I want to go back to a few of the things that you mentioned. One is that a lot of the handcrafts that you're bringing to these things are made by your family, the jewelry part of it. And so growing up, you grew up in a family of jewelers.
Yes, that is correct. My father is a 7th generation goldsmith. And he spent most of his youth making gold jewelry by himself, and then he set up a factory where he had craftsmen make his designs that he would create on paper, and they would make that in gold. And so he has a ton of experience, and now he has switched that into retail, and silver jewelry is a big focus in India right now. And so he commissions all these jewelry pieces that are made in the family factory, and they are also at the family store, which is in Mumbai.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And you go back to Mumbai.
Yes. I go back every winter for a couple of months.
So smart.
Yes.
And you have family there, and you're also able to do your radio show when you're back in Mumbai.
Yeah, that's right. That was something incredible about the radio station, the local radio station, and also how remote programming is a possibility now. And I was able to continue hosting my show from Mumbai, and it's broadcast in Brattleboro every week.
Yes.
Just as it is here.
I encourage people who are viewing to visit Vidhi's website called Vidhyism. And you'll see all the various things that she's doing, many of which we're talking about today. But can you talk about that a little bit, Vidhi, bringing together all of these different things that you wanted to bring to your audience? Because you've got the handcraft, the cuisine, the radio, the podcasts. You're also emceeing a bit, and of course the film club.
So yes, I'm doing these movie events. I do a radio show which is educational. I also have a podcast where I try to share whatever articles or interviews that I have with, some of them are with Indian celebrities, and that's a real treat for a lot of people because these are exclusive interviews.
Yes. Yeah, and so when you got to Brattleboro, it feels like this bloomed for you, having the Vidhyism that you're talking about. Yeah, so can you talk a little bit about that?
About coming to Brattleboro?
Yeah, about how that happened. You've created kind of a whole nice little world of things you're doing.
Yeah, so it started with the radio that my husband, he grew up here, and he knew about the local radio station, and when we were dating, he knew of my love for Bollywood songs, and sometimes if I was sharing my playlist with him, I would be sharing information about that specific film or the track or the singer. And so when I came to Brattleboro for the first time, he thought it'll be a good idea for me to have my own show. And at that time, it was just something to do while I was here and something interesting to do. But as I started hosting my show, I realized I had a lot of information to share. I came up with a theme every week, a different theme to explore, and that's how I was able to share what Indian music is about, what are the international influences, for example, that have affected Indian music. Like we've also had a whole funk and retro phase in the 70s, a disco phase in the 80s, and big band swing, which was such a thing in the 50s. So Bollywood has represented all of those influences very close to the originals, and of course then making it Indian, making it their own, making it more appealing to the people. So all of this I was able to explore through my radio show, and the response that I received from the local community, from all the listeners, was encouraging, and now it has evolved into this curation.
Yes, and I can see how coming to America gave you a perspective on all this, right?
Yeah.
Far away from home and realizing, oh yes, this is moving right along with this culture in different kinds of ways. You met your husband in India. He's from Brattleboro, but you met him in India. What's that story?
That's a very interesting story. So yeah, he grew up in Vermont, and until I met him, I had not heard about Vermont as a state or what it's like. We met in the south of India in a little town called Pondicherry, where I was managing a heritage hotel, and he still is an Indian classical musician, and he was touring at the time, performing at these boutique places. And so he came to play a concert at the hotel that I was managing. And at first I thought he's just one of these people coming from the western part of the world trying to play around with Indian music. But when he played the concert, I saw that he's playing from the tradition, he's steeped in the culture. And that's when I found out that he had been traveling to India since 12 years up to that point. So right from his college days, he had been going to India to learn the music, and then later when he was trained enough to perform it and present it at concert halls all over India in different cities and also in Europe.
It was really just a chance encounter.
It was a chance encounter, and I mean, the way I landed that job was also a chance. So I think it was that year when it was a series of these coincidences that were sort of coming to this point where I would be in Vermont one day.
Did you ever think of coming to America before that?
No.
Never?
Never. And it's surprising because I have been a travel journalist. I used to be a travel writer, and I have traveled to about 7 countries. So, but America I had somehow never featured because it's so far away from India.
Right.
And I had heard stories about it from people who have visited or people who have family, but I had never thought of coming here.
And here you are.
Here I am.
Here you are. As you said, your family were many generational jewelers. What were the kinds of things you were interested in as a kid?
A lot of, I was interested in a lot of reading. I had a lot of books, I remember growing up. But also I have a younger brother who's 2 years younger than me, and we had a pretty, I would say, urban childhood. Outside of school, we spent a lot of time cycling and roller skating because that was a thing in the 90s. And I think 2 things shaped our childhood. One was that we went to the movies every weekend. Our dad was, my dad is a movie buff. he grew up watching every single Bollywood film that released in the theaters, and so that was our recreation. Growing up in the city is going to watch a film, whatever film is playing at the theater every weekend, and it went to the point where if we had exams, then my dad would be like, "You guys need to de-stress. Let's go watch a movie."
Oh, so you got it early on.
I got it early on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
and
wonderful.
the other thing is traveling. Every summer vacation we would explore a different part of India because it's so vast,
Yes.
and there are so many places to see that that is also something that my dad was particular about, that we have to take a vacation and it has to be something that we haven't seen before.
Did you have extended family as well? Did you have traditional celebrations?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, growing up in India, traditional and extended family celebrations are a given. Plus, in a metropolis like Mumbai, you live in a housing society which is like a microcosm of a community. It has apartment buildings, and so everyone celebrates everything together, including Christmas. We used to have Christmas celebrations also.
Really?
India is so obsessed with festivals that we'll take festivals of other cultures and celebrate them if we are short of festivals of our own.
Interesting. So just to have fun.
To just have fun, yeah.
That's fabulous. And so Mumbai being so huge, but it sounds like you kind of had neighborhoods.
Yes.
There areas where it was a smaller kind of community.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was a very urban experience, but
Yeah.
again with the travel, we got to see so many other parts of the country
Yes.
that we otherwise wouldn't. In fact, I'm still surprised to this day that when I was 12, I enrolled for this hike in the Himalayan region. It was like a 26-day trek where we were all a bunch of 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, and there were a set of instructors who had climbed the Everest. And so they would lead the entire group of 20, 25 kids, and we would pitch our own tent at the end of the day, and we trekked along up the Ganges, up the Ganga. The Ganges is a very Western name for it, but the Ganga River, we followed it up into the mountains wherever it was, up to the point where it was safe enough. So I think the highest altitude that we trekked to was about 1,000 meters or something.
Yeah. That's still a good amount of
Yeah.
What were you studying? What were the things that you were really interested in studying, whether it was in grammar school or afterwards?
I really loved literature. And I didn't know that until I went to college, that I loved reading stories.
Yeah.
I loved reading novels growing up. We grew up on a dose of Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys,
Did
just
you
like an
really?
American kid, yes. But we also had our local comic books, like the Amar Chitra Katha, which is like these local mythological heroes. So we have our own comic books of that publication, and that was a big part of growing up. And then when I went to college, I studied the liberal arts and humanities, and in between sociology, psychology, and literature, I found that literature was the subject that interested me the most. So I did my major in English literature and also did my master's.
In English literature.
Yeah.
Interesting. So had you learned English as a child?
Yes. Literally from kindergarten, we were taught in the English medium. And Mumbai especially has these schools that are known as convent schools, and they were established by the Christian missionaries. And they are run by Indian people, but they are run by Indian Christian people, and the medium of education is English, and all the parents of our parents' generation were of the idea that a good convent education is the best one for our children.
Really?
So that's the school that my brother and I went to.
Uh-huh. And is that still true, do you think?
It is.
Is
It
it?
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it's a very aspirational thing that parents want to send their kids to English medium schools because, like I said, it's a very important part of just living in a metropolis to speak English.
Right, in an urban area.
Yeah.
You did have a career as an editor and a journalist, and you wrote for the National Center for the Performing Arts
Yeah.
in
that's
Mumbai.
correct. In Mumbai.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an interesting venue. It's one of the oldest performing arts venues in Mumbai, and they have an internal publication that circulates among their members. And so it's like a preview for concerts that are coming up, and sometimes they do artist profiles, and sometimes they do like to give a general idea of what to expect at the concert.
Yeah.
So I have been writing. I still write for the magazine remotely when I'm here.
Yeah.
And it has been a rewarding experience because that's how I have been able to connect with all these personalities from Indian music and Indian
Right.
cinema
Uh-huh.
and use that information into my curation.
Yes, everything kind of works together.
Yeah.
It sounds like. Yeah, all of the various things that you've done. Vidhi, I know that you've also been called in to do some MC work or introductory work, and I know you did a Planned Parenthood in Northern New England rally in Montpelier not so long ago.
That also happened by chance that Planned Parenthood invited me to MC a storytelling session right here in Brattleboro at 118 Elliott. And they did that on the recommendation of my friend Peter Gould, who was at that time a regular listener of my show. And he was of the opinion that I would be a great MC for some reason. So they got in touch with me, and I did what they needed me to, introduce all the participants and speak a little bit about their initiative. So after that, they invited me to a number of rallies, and the most recent one was in July, I think, at the outside the Montpelier State House.
Yes.
And that is where I introduced Bernie Sanders, and that was a pretty exciting day. Someone, our family member in Vermont, he said that it's a very Vermont experience that you had.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. Of all the things you've done, that is so Vermont.
It is, right?
I assume that this is on your website as well. You do have a newsletter, so people can stay in touch with you and you can be in touch with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I love reaching out to people, and the newsletter is on my website, which is also vidhiism.com, and there is a pop-up form or a form on the bottom of the page where people can mention their names and email IDs, and that's how I send notifications for a new event that I'm having, or if I've released a new article. All of that I share on the newsletter.
Great. And you welcome collaboration, I know.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Wendy.
And we'll be keeping our eyes out for the next thing that you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks so much for being with us today. We are so glad to have Vidhi Salla with us and to hear about all the things that she's been doing, especially over these past 6 months or so. So stay tuned. Stay tuned to Vidhi. Find out what she's doing. Check out her website. Stay tuned to Here We Are. We're a weekly show. We'll be back next time.